Ethiopia.
Tigrai.
Tigrai.
Correct, apparently.
Sorry?
Correct, apparently.
Tigrai.
We're the only ones who pronounce it that way
Tigray.
outside Ethiopia, I think. But anyway, we know we're correct.
An Ethiopian I know told me that.
That's right.
I did mention it at the last
I
hearing.
remember.
Can you give us an update as to the current state of conflict in Tigray?
Senator Benjamin Hayes, Acting
with me
First
here,
Assistant
Senator.
Secretary, Middle East and Africa Division. Senator, sadly the situation in Tigray is largely unchanged from the last Senate estimates hearing. The region remains insecure with ongoing sporadic fighting. We remain gravely concerned by reports of egregious human rights atrocities, and we've expressed our concern to the Ethiopian government about the conflict and continue to urge the Ethiopian government to bring all perpetrators to account and end the violence. We are also concerned about the dire humanitarian situation and join calls for safe, timely and unimpeded humanitarian access in the region, which is a top priority given the urgent need for supplies to those to reach those in need. We are particularly concerned about reports of systemic sexual and gender-based violence. As a founding member of the Call to Action on Protection from Gender-Based Violence, Australia strongly supported the group's 22 April statement expressing deep concern at ongoing reports of gender-based violence, including sexual violence, occurring within Tigray.
Okay.
We welcome the joint inquiry into human rights abuses by the UN Office for the High Commissioner of Human Rights and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, and the Ethiopian government's recent investigations as important first steps. Military prosecutors have begun pressing charges against soldiers suspected of killing civilians and of rape. We share the international...
Sorry, military...
Military prosecutors.
Right. Against...
Soldiers
forces in which...
I beg your pardon?
Well,
Okay, it's
soldiers in
prosecutors-
which forces?
Ethiopian forces, Senator. We share the international community's concern about Eritrea's involvement in the conflict and continue to call for Eritrea's swift and verifiable withdrawal from the region. We are pleased the international community is continuing to respond robustly to the situation. Australia continues to support our partners and the international organisations which are rightly leading the response. We welcome the United Nations Security Council's 22 April statement on the situation. Australia is concerned by increasing instability across Ethiopia ahead of the 21 June elections, with several conflicts in other regions.
Thank you. I think you've covered most of you've answered in that statement most of the questions I had, because I was going to put to you credible reports of human rights abuses, but you have clarified that. I was going to ask you to whether or not the Australian government had formed a position in relation to the use of the term by Secretary of State, ethnic cleansing.
Senator, I don't think that we have, no.
Okay. I also noted that there was reporting in the British media of civilians in northern Ethiopia having suffered horrific burns consistent with the use of white phosphorus. Are you aware of those reports?
We've heard about those reports, yes.
Is there any international investigation of these claims?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator, but I might take that on notice and come back to you.
You did respond on the level of humanitarian access, which is poor, correct?
Yes.
And are there any Australians stranded or trapped in Tigray?
Senator, I'm not sure if there's Australians trapped or stranded in Tigray. The only option to depart Ethiopia is via commercial flights. DFAT has made available a hardship program with further emergency assistance for the most vulnerable Australian citizens overseas. We understand around 80 Australian citizens and permanent residents were in Tigray when the conflict began, and around 20 remain.
Around 20 still. Okay.
The Biden administration appointed Senator Chris Coons as the
Yep.
US Special Envoy to Tigray. I met with Senator Coons in Washington
Okay.
as well and discussed circumstances there. Just to add to Mr Hayes, I understood that our embassy in Addis Ababa, sorry, I'm very tongue-tied. Ababa, it is late. Had been providing consular assistance in terms of supporting evacuations with international partners from Tigray of citizens.
Of
Multiple
Australian citizens or not?
Including Australian
Including
citizens.
Australian citizens?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've said you've met with the Special Envoy, was that the...
Yes, thanks.
Have you had any conversations or engagement with any Ethiopian counterparts or interlocutors?
In a way, Senator, including Dr Tedros, I've certainly engaged with him on this matter a couple of times. I know that DFAT here has spoken with the ambassador or with the post here. There's also a matter which I discussed in some detail with both Dr Bachelet and the ICRC President Peter Mora in Geneva as well. And of course Dr Tedros was a former Health Minister and Foreign Minister of Ethiopia.
Correct.
We'll be using the UN Human Rights Council session in June, July as well, Senator, to seek opportunities to continue our focus on calling for an end to violence.
Okay, well, that's very important, isn't it? There was some imposition by the United States on visa restrictions. How about I get that into an order that involves subjects, objects and verbs? Last week the US imposed visa restrictions on, I think, still unnamed Ethiopian and Eritrean officials. Are you aware of that?
I'm not Senator, but I'm happy to make some inquiries if there's a particular issue you'd like us to follow up.
So this is it's an FT report,
Okay.
27th of May. Washington has imposed visa restrictions on as yet unnamed Ethiopian Eritrean officials, saying they had taken no meaningful steps to end hostilities in the brutal 6-month war in the Tigray region.
Senator, I apologise. I'm reading more closely some of the background in my notes, and I might be able to offer you some commentary on that. On the 27th of May, the US announced visa restrictions for any current or former Ethiopian or Eritrean government officials, members of the security forces, or other individuals responsible for or complicit in undermining resolution of the crisis in Tigray. The US also announced they had imposed wide-ranging restrictions on economic and security assistance to Ethiopia and will bring our defence trade, as in the United States, defence trade control policy in line with them.
Sorry, what was the last
Sorry,
bit?
I dropped in a quote there without making it clear when I was quoting. So the US also announced that they had imposed, quote, wide-ranging restrictions on economic and security assistance to Ethiopia and will bring our defence trade control policy in line with them.
Right, I was very confused.
End quote.
End quote. As yet, the Australian government has not considered whether it will take any action in light of the US position, correct?
Correct. In relation to visa restrictions, to be clear, yeah.
Well, I didn't, in light of.
Yep.
Is that something before you, Minister, or not?
Not at this point, Senator, but I had noted the announcements that had been made, and it's something that I will consider.
Okay. And can you remind me, so you've I think outlined some discussions you've had. Have you made and that you're proposing to do work at or make a statement at, or engage
Human
with
Rights
others
Council.
at the Human Rights Council. Have you made other statements prior to this, or I just can't recall?
I think Mr Hayes enunciated some of those, Senator.
I meant you.
Oh, certainly. I issued a statement about relating to our concerns and including acknowledgement of a contribution to the World Food Programme to support some of the most vulnerable in Tigray. We supported the call to action statement, which was very focused on ongoing reports of gender-based violence, particularly including sexual violence. We're a founding member of Call to Action. We, with Canada and New Zealand, delivered a joint statement to the UNSC as well on the 19th of May.
Okay. Now, Senator Betts asked some, I think he touched on some of these issues, but if you bear with me, I'll try and just do this really quickly. Azerbaijan